too much.
It's perfect. So I have approximately 15 questions. Before we talk about your first and excellent movie, Babadook, I had add-on.
Yes.
Could you tell us about your early experience in order to present yourself to our French audience, please?
I started off as an actress,
Yes.
but even earlier than that, when I was a child, I was writing and directing and acting in my own plays.
Okay, cool.
And then when I became a teenager, I decided to study drama, study
Okay.
acting.
Okay.
And I went to acting school, and I was pretty much discouraged from writing and directing during that time. They said, you must do one thing, concentrate on one thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I did, but I got bored being an actress.
Okay.
And I started to slowly gravitate back towards writing and directing.
Okay. Could you talk about your production of your first movie, Babadook? Before I provide this interview, I saw your short movie, Monster. The story of the short and the feature film are very close. For example, the relation between a mother and her only child.
I think that there are a lot of similarities,
Yes.
obviously, and the thing that is linked to both of them is this feeling that I wanted to explore of facing the shadow side.
Yes.
And so that was the aim of the short film Monster.
Yes.
But it's a short film, and you
Yes.
can't explore much in 10
No.
minutes. So it's like it's like a
short,
sketch.
Yes, yes, it's
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah. And so, I was working on other films in the years after that, but I kept coming back to this idea of, the need to face difficult things in oneself and in one's life. And so it was through that idea that the script of the Babadook started to come into being.
Okay. Babadook has been financed through crowdfunding via the website Kickstarter. How difficult was it to find a budget for your first movie?
It was a challenge. I'm not sure how it is in France, but it's
Same thing. For first movie, it's very difficult to finance. So
so it wasn't without its challenges. We got money from Screen Australia and South Australian Film Corporation.
Okay.
So we're very lucky in Australia that we have government, funding.
To help, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the fact that I'd made Monster and that it had done so well, and also that it's a film that has a slight fantasy feel, fantastical feel.
Yes,
it helped the financiers to see the Babadook, to imagine what it would be like. Yeah. So we were funded there, but we still didn't have enough money to develop the production design.
Okay.
So that's why we decided to have a Kickstarter, and that Kickstarter was so helpful because it gave us the world of our film.
Yes.
So we, because we created a set. The house is a studio.
Studio?
Yeah. And we had no money to finish that studio set. So we were very lucky that Kickstarter worked for us.
Okay. Could we talk about the creation of the Babadook book? It's very magic. It's like a book for a child, yes, but also for adult, because when you open the book, it's difficult. It's maybe strong pictures and strong thematic. Yes, maybe too strong for a child, maybe.
Yes.
Can you talk about this?
Yeah.
Did you design the book?
I didn't design it. I had concept sketches that I'd drawn, very bad ones, but I could see the book in my head, and I knew that the book was the core of the film.
Yes.
So the book was like the heart of the film. It all starts there, and then the design ripples out from the book.
Yes.
So we had to make the book first.
Of course.
And I had an idea of how I needed the Babadook to look, the outside, with this hat and this wig and mask, it's very important. The way I saw it, it was like a demon playing at being a human being.
Yes.
So everything had to look sort of like a human, but then when you look closely, it doesn't look like human being at all. Yeah.
Yes.
And so we looked for a very long time for an illustrator to produce this book.
Okay.
And we came across an American illustrator who was a fantastic artist.
Yes.
And he really took what was in my head and put it into a book. Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
When I discovered your movie, it made me think about different directors like George Méliès, of course, John Carpenter, David Lynch, and also about Stephen King's book like Shining, The Importance of the Child.
Yeah.
The work of which director did you use as an inspiration as a screenwriter and a director for your movie?
Well, all of those. Yeah, you're very spot on, because all of those really, when you say them, I'm like, oh, I love them. You know?
Yes.
I mean, you know, David Lynch for this he's able to use abstractions and dream in his films in a really beautiful way, and this inspired me. I really loved, as you say, John Carpenter. I love The Thing and Halloween. These are really pure films, and for me they're art films.
Yes.
I don't see them as trashy or less than because they're genre. I also really love Hitchcock.
Okay.
I don't think it's a direct reference, but probably, you know, just from watching it, there's something in there of his. I think he was meticulous with sound and music, and really understood fear through audio. And so, you know, there was so much of that influenced the Babadook.
Since in the Mouth of Darkness of John Carpenter, I had not been so afraid during a movie. Yes, I can easily understand why 20 critics on the website Rotten Tomatoes gave a perfect score, 20 on 20.
Merci.
Good. To your movie. How did you succeed to create such a perfect climax in your movie?
Luck.
Yes, luck. But I think also a lot of work also, because it's so perfect. Each part of your movie is very thinking. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I really tried to connect emotionally to the film and to that woman, and everything that every choice that I made was about that woman's emotional and psychological life. But in terms of the rhythm, I felt it should be like a pair of hands around your neck, and it shouldn't let go, and it should squeeze and squeeze and squeeze until you feel like you can't breathe.
Yes.
And then you explode, and the film explodes into like a crazy asylum. And this was the rhythm. I always felt like a piece of music.
Explosion.
And so that was what I followed with the writing and the production. And editing.
How did you choose Essie Davis, Amelia, and Noah Wiseman Samuel to play in the movie?
Essie is a very good friend of mine, and we went through acting school together. And initially I didn't want to cast a friend. I was a bit concerned about, you know, because as a director you need to have a defined relationship. It should be a loving relationship, but it's not equal. It's someone leading another person through a difficult experience, especially with this film. But Essie auditioned, and she was extraordinary, and so so that's how that came to being. I think because we had a very quick shoot, the fact that we knew each other really helped us to go boom straight into the depth of the film. Noah was the opposite. He had no experience. Essie, you know, is a very experienced actress. He had no experience. He just had such a strong instinct. And the other thing that he has is a real empathy for others. So we really prepared him very well. I took him aside for 3 weeks before the production started. And I told him the story of the Babadook, and he really loved the story, and he understood he was the hero of the story.
It's good for him.
And so he felt very involved. And then we brought Essie in after a week. So Essie, he and I worked together, and we just play games, and we did improvisation for 2 weeks, and that's how we introduced him into the film. We protected him a lot too. Like there's some violent, aggressive things said to him in the film. He wasn't present during any of that, so we had an adult stand-in for those scenes. But he became a real actor. He became a professional actor.
Yeah, of course. Different subjects are dealt with in the movies, as death, single-parent families, or relationship between a mother and a son, society point of view, or childhood. For me, a movie is more than an horror movie. What do you consider the goal of a good movie and the main responsibility of a good director?
I think for me, the most important thing is your own point of view.
Yes.
And to really know what that is. I think sometimes directors don't even know what story they want to tell. So for me, I was very clear, this is the story I want to tell, it's important to me, and this is the reason why I'm making the film. So that for me is what makes a good movie, when it's a story a director you can tell has something to say. Whether you agree with what they say or not, it doesn't matter.
It's a point of view, yes.
Yeah, it's one's point of view. So that for me is the most important thing. And I think the other thing that's equally as important is to be honest in your filmmaking. So to be very true and not...
We saw this in the movie.
Thank you.
Found all people that saw your movie found it is excellent movie. So internationally, if you look, always a good critic for your movie. First movie, wow.
Merci.
I think your movie is the best Australian movies in years. The renaissance of the genre without the presence of the master of horror, actually. Could you tell us about the way the public reacted after seeing a movie? Did you speak with the public after...
In Australia?
Yeah, for example?
Yeah, we had a very good response in Australia.
Yes.
And it was not a wide release, unfortunately, but it was a smaller release, but it really attracted, it was marketed in a very sensible way, so people didn't think that it was just a horror film.
No.
And we had some critics, two in particular in Australia, who really hate horror. And they saw it and they said, this is very good, this is something very different. So it really helped us to reach a wider audience of people who would not normally see horror films.
Okay. This movie shows that to tell a story with a woman's point of view is an interesting and different approach. Why did you keep it the same approach between your short and your feature film? Always women and always the same point of view.
I guess it wasn't an intellectual decision, it just felt right to me.
Yes.
And it didn't feel right for her to be in relationship to a man. It was very much her in relationship to herself.
Okay.
So these are the themes that really intrigued me, and I wanted to explore a very, very complex female character, one who wasn't perfect, but who was worth watching for an hour and a half. So.
Okay. What kind of difficulties have you met during the shooting of the movie?
Many.
Yeah. What was the most important difficulties that you met?
I think that the strongest difficulties were having a child in such a huge role with no time. So that combination was very stressful.
Yes.
And also the fact that we were in a studio filming, so you couldn't just take a video camera and go and shoot some extra shots on the weekend, or we had big lights, and we had to pre-light everything. So it was only through having such an amazing cinematographer and production designer, costume designer, perfect team, that we were able to make the film look a lot more expensive than it is.
Good. What do you prefer in horror movies, actually? The more psychological or the broader approach? For you as a writer, was this movie a way to exorcise your own darkness?
Yes, to the last question.
Yes.
I think it helps me to be very balanced, exploring these dark issues, and I think you know, I've really met some audience members who also found it very cathartic. And for me that's really beautiful, because you put forward something that you feel is important, and then to have an audience member say, this really moved me, it really changed me, is superb. And what was your first question?
What do you prefer in horror movies, the more psychological or the bloodier?
You know, I tend towards the psychological, but I watch everything. And one of the, actually maybe the best cinematic experience I had 2 weeks ago, I went to a drive-in.
Yes, of course.
Yes,
yeah.
there's very few, but there was one for the Sydney Film Festival, and it was a screening of a remastered version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The new one?
No,
the
old original.
One that they made, yes, I saw it 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
of course. It's
and we were in a van, like in the film.
Yes.
My friend owns one of these vans, and we were all sitting there with blankets, and we were watching, and I said, wouldn't it be great if Leatherface came right now, and someone dressed as Leatherface came at that point with a chainsaw and scared the life out of us.
Good idea.
And it was just superb. So this is a really violent, very violent film, but it's a film that I think is a masterpiece, and one that I really love. So.
Okay. And my last question: what are your current projects after this movie? Did you work on the why? Did you make some new screenplay?
Yeah.
Did you make a new movie? What is your current project?
I have 2 scripts that I'm writing, that I'm working on. And not horror films. One is a frontier film. It's about it's set in Tasmania in the 1820s in Australia, and it's a film about revenge and violence and how futile those things are. Again, from a woman's perspective. But I'm just writing that at the moment.
Thank you very much for your answers. Have a good day.
You're welcome. Merci beaucoup. Merci.